You drove 8 hours just to watch me laugh with someone else." Her voice was casual, but my chest tightened as I realized I meant nothing anymore. I regretted nothing that day. I didn't think a summer could change everything. But here I am, a 28-year-old aspiring lawyer from Ohio, reminiscing about that pivotal summer in 2002 when I fell head over heels for a girl I met online. It started innocently enough, a casual chat in an AOL Instant Messenger room that spiraled into something I thought was real. I was young, naive, and utterly in love with the idea of love. But it all crumbled into betrayal, leaving me questioning everything I believed about relationships. Back then, life was a whirlwind of textbooks and coffee runs. I juggled studying for finals with my part-time gig as a barista, pouring lattes while dreaming of courtroom victories. That summer, I stumbled into a chat room where I met Jessie Moore, a 29-year-old aspiring physician's assistant from New York. We bonded over our shared love for indie music and classic films. Our late-night conversations flowed effortlessly, each message a thread weaving our lives closer together. The moment we exchanged pictures was surreal. I remember staring at her smile, her eyes sparkling with ambition and warmth. When we finally decided to move our chats to voice calls, it felt like we were no longer just pixels on a screen but two souls connecting across miles. I can still recall the butterflies in my stomach as I planned to visit her during my summer break. This was it, the moment I'd been waiting for. When I arrived at the train station, I spotted Jessie among her friends, and my heart raced. She saw me, her face lit up with joy, and suddenly everything else faded away. We embraced, and the world around us disappeared. Our first kiss was electric, filled with the kind of magic you only read about. We promised to navigate the distance together, our hearts intertwined, full of hope and youthful ambition. But reality hit hard. Jessie took a job as a camp counselor for the summer, and our communication dwindled. I poured my heart into letters, each one filled with longing and affection, but her replies became colder, more distant. It felt like an ice storm had settled over what was once a blossoming relationship. I was left wondering, was she pulling away? Did she really care, or had I been fooling myself all along? As the days turned into weeks, I felt the weight of betrayal settle deep within me. The girl I thought was the one had vanished, replaced by silence. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being ghosted, left behind for someone else. It stung, and I felt foolish for allowing myself to hope so deeply. So Reddit, AITA, for feeling betrayed when the girl I thought was the one suddenly ghosted me for someone else. I know I might be overreacting, but it hurts. I just wanted to know if anyone else has experienced something like this. A month had passed since I last posted, and every day felt like I was dragging a weight behind me. Moving on was harder than I anticipated. I'd wake up, go through the motions of my day, and then, as night fell, I'd find myself staring at the ceiling, wondering what went wrong. Jessie haunted my thoughts, her absence felt like a ghost in my life, lingering just out of reach. Growing up in a close-knit family, I was taught the values of trust and loyalty. My parents were together since high school, and I always believed in that kind of love, steadfast and unwavering. I thought Jessie was my person, the one I could build a future with. But now, as summer progressed, I started to realize that maybe I had built a romantic castle in the air, one that was too fragile to stand against reality. Every now and then, I'd hear whispers of her life at camp. Friends would mention her in passing, and I'd cringe, wondering if they knew about the letters I wrote or the hopes I harbored. Then one day, Ryan, my best friend and the most loyal supporter I had, dropped a bombshell. "Dude, I think Jessie is dating someone else," he said, casually as if he were discussing the weather. My heart sank. "Who?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Some camp counselor named Matt. He's supposed to be charming and confident, you know, the type that girls swoon over." Ryan's words hit me like a ton of bricks. Jessie had always mentioned how she admired confident people, and now it felt like my heart was being ripped out all over again. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was slipping away, choosing someone more tangible than me. I spent hours replaying our conversations, searching for clues I might have missed. Was I really that blind? As I sat there, the weight of betrayal hung over me like a dark cloud. I knew I had to confront her. I deserved closure, and I couldn't keep living in this limbo of uncertainty. Ryan encouraged me, telling me that I needed to stand up for myself to seek the truth. "You can't let her get away with this, man," he said, his voice firm but supportive. "Yeah, but what if I'm wrong?" I shot back, feeling the anxiety rise in my chest. "What if she really is just busy with camp? I don't want to make a fool of myself." Ryan shrugged. "Dude, you've got to take that risk. You owe it to yourself. Besides, if she's moved on, don't you want to know? You deserve better than to be left hanging." His words resonated with me. The Reddit community had also chimed in, with users rallying behind me. "You deserve better," they said. "Don't let her ghost you without an explanation." Their words ignited a fire within me. I needed to know, was Jessie's heart still with me, or had she truly moved on? I found myself spending late nights crafting messages that I never sent, pouring out my feelings onto the screen. I wrote about the dreams we shared, the laughter we had, and the love I thought we were building. Each message felt cathartic, yet it also reminded me of the rawness of my situation. I couldn't help but feel foolish for letting myself hope so much for something that seemed to be slipping through my fingers. As summer progressed, I began to notice subtle signs of Jessie's disinterest. There was a conversation where she casually mentioned Matt, her tone light and carefree. The way she spoke about him, the way her eyes sparkled when she described his charm, made my heart sink further. I felt like I was a spectator in my own life, watching this beautiful girl drift away into someone else's arms. With each passing day, my resolve grew stronger. I began to plan my visit to her camp, determined to confront her about everything. I wanted to hear it from her own lips, but I also felt a familiar knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. What if I was wrong? What if she didn't feel the same way anymore? Ryan was supportive throughout this entire ordeal. He listened to my doubts and fears and encouraged me to think through my next steps. "You're going to regret it if you don't go, Alex. You need to know for yourself," he urged, his voice steady. I appreciated his confidence, but the fear of rejection loomed large in my mind. I spent hours researching her camp, trying to figure out the best time to visit without causing a scene. I wanted to confront Jessie, but I didn't want to disrupt her summer. It felt like I was preparing for a battle, gathering my thoughts and rehearsing what I would say. My heart raced at the thought of seeing her again. Would she still feel the same spark? Or had Matt taken my place in her heart? Looking back, I realized that the summer of love had turned into a summer of lies, mostly my own lies to myself. I had convinced myself that everything would work out, that love could conquer distance. Now, I was left with shattered expectations and a heart that craved answers. As I plotted my course, I couldn't help but reflect on how love had become this complicated web of emotions. I thought about all the dreams we shared and the laughter we had. The memories felt like a bittersweet melody, echoing through my mind, reminding me of what I stood to lose. In the end, I knew I had to confront Jessie. The upcoming visit felt like a turning point, an opportunity to either reclaim what I lost or finally let go. I had to find out if this was truly the end of our story, or if there was still a chance to rewrite it. So here I am, gearing up for what could be the most difficult conversation of my life. I want to believe that I'm doing the right thing, but the fear of rejection looms large. I'll keep you all updated as I navigate this emotional storm. Update 2. Another month passed, and the calendar pages turned rapidly towards the end of summer. I could feel the tension building inside me like a pressure cooker ready to explode. The anticipation of visiting Jessie loomed over me, each day dragging on as I prepared for what I hoped would be the final chapter in this emotional saga. I had finally decided on a date to confront her. It felt surreal, like I was stepping into a movie scene where the protagonist gathers courage to face the love of their life. But reality was much harsher than the cinematic portrayals. The idea of seeing Jessie with Matt, of confronting her about her feelings, gnawed at my insides. I kept envisioning scenarios in which I would confront her and uncover the truth, but each scenario ended with my heart breaking all over again. The weeks leading up to my visit were a whirlpool of anxiety and excitement. I spent late nights pacing my room, rehearsing what I would say. I jotted down notes, trying to articulate my thoughts clearly. I wanted to express my love, my hurt, and my desire for closure without sounding accusatory. It was challenging to balance the vulnerability of my feelings with the empowerment I needed to confront her. One day, I met Ryan for coffee. I could tell he sensed my mounting anxiety. "You okay, man?" he asked, leaning forward, concern etched on his face. Honestly, I don't know, I admitted, feeling the weight of my uncertainty. What if she doesn't want to see me? What if I'm just another chapter in her life that she's ready to close? Ryan took a deep breath, his expression serious but compassionate. Then you'll know, at least you'll have your answer. But you can't keep living like this, waiting around for someone who's moved on, he replied, his voice steady. Yeah, but what if I'm wrong? I shot back, my anxiety rising. What if she really is just busy with camp? I don't want to make a fool of myself. Dude, you've got to take that risk. You owe it to yourself. Besides, if she's moved on, don't you want to know? You deserve better than to be left hanging. His words resonated with me, echoing in my mind like a mantra. The pressure of uncertainty was suffocating, and I knew I needed to take this leap. I was tired of feeling like a ghost in my own life, haunted by memories that no longer served me. I wanted to reclaim my narrative, to rewrite my story with strength and clarity. As the day of my visit approached, I received a message from a mutual friend who had been in touch with Jessie. Hey, just so you know, she's been hanging out with Matt a lot lately. They look close, the message read. My heart sank further into my stomach. It felt like a knife twisting deeper into my flesh, the wound reopening with every word. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of emotions raging inside me. This was it, my opportunity to face the truth. I decided to surprise Jessie at the camp, hoping to catch her before she got too comfortable with Matt. My plan was to arrive early in the day when the campers would be engaged in activities, giving us a moment of privacy to talk. Still, I found myself struggling with a whirlwind of emotions. On one hand, I yearned for clarity, a chance to hear her side of the story. On the other hand, the thought of seeing her with Matt made me feel physically ill. I couldn't shake the images from my mind. Jessie laughing at something he said, her hand resting on his shoulder. The prospect of confrontation was terrifying, and I grappled with what I might say if I saw her in that moment. The night before my visit, I hardly slept. My mind raced with possibilities, and my heart thudded in my chest like a drumbeat of uncertainty. I replayed every interaction we'd had, desperately searching for clues. Did I miss something? Was there a moment when she decided to move on? The questions swirled like a storm inside me, leaving me feeling unsettled. In the early hours of the morning, I found myself sitting at my desk, surrounded by the remnants of our past conversations. I opened my laptop and scrolled through old messages, trying to find any indication of what had gone wrong. I stumbled upon a photo of us from that summer, her bright smile, the way her eyes sparkled with joy. It was a stark contrast to how I felt now, and I couldn't help but feel a wave of nostalgia wash over me. Finally, morning arrived. The sun filtered through my window, casting a warm glow over my room, yet I felt anything but warm inside. As I drove to the camp, I could feel my palms sweating on the steering wheel, my heart pounding with each mile. What if she rejected me? What if I was too late? When I finally arrived at the camp, I parked my car and took a deep breath, gathering my resolve. The camp was alive with laughter and energy, kids running around, counselors shouting playful directives. I stood there for a moment, my heart racing, surveying the scene. There she was in the distance, her laughter ringing out like a melody that both soothed and tortured me. It was the laughter I had longed to hear, yet it echoed painfully against the backdrop of my anxiety. As I approached, I could see Jessie sitting on a log with a group of campers, her hair glinting in the sunlight. She looked so happy, so carefree, and I felt the jealousy bubble up within me. It was a stark reminder of the life she was living without me. I hesitated for a moment, watching her interact with Matt, whose confident demeanor only heightened my insecurities. My heart raced as I took a step closer, ready to confront her about everything that had transpired. I had to know if I was just a fleeting memory in her life, or if there was still something worth fighting for. The stakes felt impossibly high, and I reminded myself of Ryan's words, "You deserve better." In that moment, I felt a flicker of empowerment. This was my story, and I was no longer going to let it be dictated by someone else's decisions. As I approached, I could feel the adrenaline coursing through me. It was time to face the music and find out where we truly stood. I steeled myself as I walked closer, my mind racing with thoughts of how to begin. Should I dive right in and ask her about Matt, or should I start with something lighter? Every step felt heavier than the last, yet I pressed on, determined to finally find closure. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest, and called out to her. Jessie! The sound of her name caught her attention and she turned, her eyes widening as they met mine. For a brief moment, time stood still. The world around us faded and it was just the two of us, suspended in a moment filled with unresolved emotions. Her smile cracked, then vanished, and in its place guilt sharp and undeniable. Alex, she said, her voice a mix of disbelief and uncertainty. My heart raced as I took another step closer, ready to confront the truth. Update 3. I stood before Jessie, the weight of all my emotions crashing down like a tidal wave. Alex, she repeated, her voice a mix of surprise and uncertainty, as if she couldn't quite believe I was standing there. The moment felt electric, charged with the unresolved feelings that had simmered between us for months. Hey, can we talk? I managed to say, trying to keep my voice steady despite the tumult raging inside me. I could feel the eyes of the campers on us, their laughter fading into the background, replaced by the tension hanging in the air. Jessie glanced at her friends who were watching curiously, then nodded slowly. Sure, she said, biting her lip. I could see a flicker of apprehension in her eyes, and I wondered if she had anticipated this moment. Did she know what was coming? We walked a short distance away from her group, the sounds of the camp fading as we stepped into a quieter area nestled among the trees. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting a dappled pattern on the ground, but all I could focus on was Jessie's expression. How have you been? She asked, her voice soft, but I could hear the tension in it. There was a fleeting moment of normalcy, just two people catching up, but I knew we were well past small talk. I've been okay, I replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. But I need to know what's going on between us, Jessie. I came here because I can't keep pretending everything is fine when it's not. Her gaze dropped to the ground and I felt my heart race. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken words. I could see the conflict in her eyes as she searched for the right thing to say. I didn't mean to ghost you, she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Things just got complicated. Complicated how? I pressed, my tone even but firm. I thought we had something real. I thought we were going to make it work despite the distance. Jessie sighed, her shoulders slumping as if the weight of the world rested on them. I did too. But then I came here for the summer and Matt was just there. He was someone I could talk to face, someone who was present in my life. Her eyes flickered with guilt as she continued. I felt like I was losing you and it scared me. I didn't know how to handle that. The admission hit me like a punch to the gut. She hadn't just moved on. She had drifted the same way I did, only faster, and she let go first. So you chose to shut me out? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady despite the hurt bubbling to the surface. I know it was wrong, she replied, tears beginning to glisten in her eyes. I should have communicated with you. But I thought I was making the right choice, choosing stability over uncertainty. He's different, he's everything I thought I wanted. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. And what about what we wanted? Did that mean nothing to you? The anger and pain that I had bottled up surged forward. I wrote you letters every week, Jessie. I waited for you to reach out, but it felt like I was shouting into a void. I know, she whispered, her voice trembling. And I'm sorry, it was never my intention to hurt you. I didn't want to face the reality of us being apart. We stood in silence for a moment, the gravity of our conversation hanging heavily between us. I could feel the tears prickling at my own eyes, but I fought them back. So what now? I asked, my voice hoarse. Are you with him? Is that what you want? Jessie looked away, her expression filled with conflict. I don't know, she admitted. Matt makes things easy, but I can't forget what we had. I care about you, Alex, I always have. Then why did you let it slip away? I asked, my heart aching. Did I mean so little that you could just walk away? No, it's not like that, she exclaimed, her voice rising slightly. I thought I was doing what was best for both of us. But now I see how wrong I was. I was scared, and instead of fighting for you, I ran. The realization hit me like a wave. I had spent all this time feeling betrayed, but Jessie was just as lost as I was. I'm not asking you to choose right now, I said, my voice softening. I just need to know if there's still something between us worth fighting for. Jessie's eyes glistened with tears, and she took a step closer. I don't want to lose you, Alex. I want to figure this out, but it's so complicated. Complicated doesn't have to mean over, I replied, my heart racing. We can take it one step at a time, just talk to me, be honest. She nodded, wiping away a tear that had escaped down her cheek. I want that too. I want to be honest with you. As we talked, it felt like a dam was breaking. We shared our fears, our hopes, and the love that had once connected us so deeply. I could feel the walls between us starting to crumble, but the reality of her relationship with Matt still loomed large. "I need time to think," she said finally, her voice steadier. "I need to figure out what I want, but I don't want to lose you in the process." "I'll be here," I promised, the weight of the situation settling in. "Just know that whatever happens, I care about you. I always will." As we parted, I felt a mixture of relief and heartache. I had confronted my fears and spoken my truth, but the future remained uncertain. Jessie walked back to her friends, a lingering glance shared between us that spoke volumes. Weeks later, as summer turned to fall, I found solace in my friends and family. I focused on my studies, poured my heart into my work, and began to rediscover my own identity outside of Jessie. The experience taught me about the complexities of love, trust, and the importance of being true to oneself. I still thought about Jessie, and I hoped for her happiness, whether it was with me or someone else. The journey wasn't easy, but I had learned to embrace the unknown, knowing that sometimes love means letting go. As I left the camp, I watched a freight train pass along the horizon. For the first time, I didn't ache to be on it, I was already moving on. That night, I deleted every unsent message I'd written to her. The letters, the playlists, the what-ifs, I let them go. She might still be figuring things out, but I was done waiting. I didn't need an answer from her anymore. I'd already found mine. So Reddit, how do you deal with unexpected heartbreak and move forward? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences.